Sometimes the best made plans just never pan out, no matter how hard we try. All right, everybody, it is Sunday. We are slowly making progress. Kenny's still here. He hasn't left for 2 days. He's asleep out in the office. Let me show you what we've gotten done so far. The engine bay is all clean. It's been painted semi-gloss black. It looks so much better. We've swapped to solid motor mounts on the frame. Figured we might as well get that out of the way. But we're getting ready to swap the CVF power steering system into this thing. As you can see, it's all assembled, and the engine, I believe, is pretty much ready to go down in the car. But the CVF kit uses AN power steering lines, and so I need to go to Jegs and get the fittings that adapt the stock power steering gearbox to an AN fitting. Also want to get some paint for that master cylinder and brake lines, some cast iron gray. I think VHT makes it. I've used it in the past. But we're making progress here. We've also got the shifter mocked up in there on the floor. We bought a Jegs shifter pedestal that raises the shifter up off the floor. Makes it easier to reach, and also you can adjust it so the seat will slide up under the shifter. So if somebody wants to move the seat forward, the same thing I did in my Malibu. So anyway, while Kenny's getting woke up back here, I went back to the office and checked on him. He's still alive, but he's feeling a little rough. I put up the last video, I think about 4:30 this morning. I think I finally laid down, went to bed about 6. So I'm not running on a whole lot of sleep, but yeah, it's the YouTube life. So let's back up here a minute. What Kenny and I are attempting to do is replace the entire drivetrain in Bob's Nova in a week so that he can take it to the Bowtie Nationals this weekend at Norwalk. We pulled the 400 small block out of Vicky's 64 C10 to replace the stock 307. We're also putting a 700 R4 transmission in it to replace the stock Turbo 350 and a strange 9-inch rear end with disc brakes to replace the stock 10-bolt with drums. Although all of this stuff should just bolt right into Bob's car, getting all of the needed parts rounded up turned into a logistical nightmare. Although having the Jegs 11th Avenue store within 35 minutes of the shop makes things a lot easier, you still have to deal with the fact that sometimes aftermarket parts don't quite fit like they should. And when you're replacing this many stock original parts with aftermarket stuff, there's bound to be some hangups. Anyway, by the time I got back from Jegs, Kenny had the 307 that we'd pulled out of Bob's Nova just about ready to go back in Vicky's 64 C10. He also had the firewall masked up on Bob's Nova so we could paint the master cylinder, brake lines, and power brake booster. He also had the shifter and shifter pedestal mocked up inside the car, as well as the gauges mounted under the dash. Although everything we're doing to Bob's car is relatively simple, there are some tricks to the trade that I'm teaching Kenny to help reduce labor time and frustration that can help us make projects go smoother in the future. All right, so we've run into our first major obstacles. One, fuel pump that I purchased will not fit down in the pocket for the fuel pump of the frame, so we're probably going to have to put just an electric pump up underneath the back of the car for right now. The other thing is the power steering reservoir for the CVF kit does not clear the upper control arm, so we're probably going to have to use the remote tank similar to what we used on my Malibu, I think. Yeah, the Malibu has a remote mount tank on it. So we're going to have to do the same thing on Bob's Nova. Once Kenny and I remove the aftermarket fuel pump, as well as the reservoir tank for the power steering, the engine's set right down in the car. So a little trick that I like to use that has saved me a lot of aggravation and grief over the years is I leave the motor mounts on the block loose, like extremely loose. And that gives you some wiggle room to get the bolts to slide through the motor mounts. And then once you've got the bolts through the mounts, then you can tighten up the block mounts, and it just makes your life so much easier. Now, another nice little thing that we're doing here is we're using my OG 700 R4. This is the original transmission that came out of Billy's S10 when it was new. This transmission has had the ears cut off for the converter cover. So that makes it a lot easier to get the transmission up in between a set of headers if you have to do that. At this point in the project, Kenny has been here for 2 or 3 days straight, sleeping either in the RV or out in the office on the couch. As I said, the plan is to have Bob's Nova at the Bowtie Nationals this weekend, if at all possible. But Bob's not the only one who's going to be making passes down the track. As a way to say thank you to Kenny for all his hard work and all the hours he's been putting in, I decided that this weekend, Kenny's going to get to drive the Malibu. Although he's driven my car a handful of times on the street, back then my car only ran mid-11s on motor. So in order for Kenny to get reacquainted with the Malibu, I decided to take Kenny out to dinner and let him drive the car to get a feel for it. Now, although this car is really simple to drive, any car that's this fast is going to have little quirks or intricacies that the driver needs to be aware of. Getting a good feel for the steering and brakes as well as the shifter can drastically reduce a new driver's anxiety at the track. And taking a break and cruising around in a hot rod going to dinner is an excellent way to recharge as well as relieve some stress. When Kenny and I pulled into the parking lot at Texas Roadhouse, it was obvious that we weren't the only ones out enjoying our hot rods tonight or looking forward to a nice juicy steak.
A little overdone.
Overdone? What are you, nuts? Kenny, it's still mooing. Although Kenny and I don't have our steaks cooked the same, we definitely share a love for street cars and hot rods. And we're both looking forward to putting together some cruise routes for this summer. As you've probably noticed in a lot of my videos, Central Ohio is a beautiful area. And the Courthouse Square in downtown Newark is one of my favorite places to cruise with the street cars, especially after dark. For as long as I can remember, every year on the weekend of my birthday, they host the Light the Night Cruise In and Car Show on the square. It was an event that Vicky and I always used to look forward to, but haven't had time to attend in a long time. I'm hoping that in the next few years things can slow down a little bit for us so that we can share some of these traditions with Wyatt, who by all accounts seems to be destined to become a hot rodder himself. All right, everybody, we're back. It is Monday. The kids made it back late last night from the races. Last night after we got back from dinner, Kenny and I dug through some things and we found some more problems. One, the radiator that we purchased will not fit in this car, at least with the battery up front. So that's a problem. It's a beautiful radiator. I mean, a really nice radiator, and I wish we could use it, but until the battery gets moved to the trunk, we can't, and that just adds a lot more difficulty right now. So I believe somewhere around here, there is a radiator out of my Nova that has a fan on it that will work in this car. So we're gonna try and find that and use that radiator, at least for the time being. Also, we found that one of the power steering fittings I got at Jegs yesterday is wrong, so I need to go back and get that. Of course, the fuel pump doesn't fit the frame, so for right now, I think we're going to just try and use the stock fuel pump that came on the 307 and cross our fingers that it keeps up with the 400. We still need to get the rear end put in the car so that I can get a drive shaft measurement, but we also found out that the cross member, which I've read online, everybody says just move the cross member back, and it's not that simple. Cross member will not work, and so I ordered a cross member last night from Summit and had it overnight shipped. So the cross member should be here tomorrow. We've still got gauges to wire up, we've still got exhaust and headers, we've still got a radiator to put in, a fan to wire. We still got a rear end to put in and brake lines to make, and so we've got a long way to go before we're done. Also, we need a mini starter. I had anticipated maybe just using the original starter that came off the 307. The problem is the 307 has a 153 flex plate, and the flex plate on the 400 is of course a 168. So we need a mini starter for that. Not only does my parts list for the car keep increasing, my shop supply list is increasing as well. So my first errand for today is to run down to Buckeye Lake and visit Mark and pick up some supplies that we need to hopefully ensure some smooth sailing in the shop the rest of the week. At some point, we're also going to have to tackle a few things on the Malibu. Although the ice cream stands are open and the temperatures are warming up, my fuel tank is still filled with Winter Blend E85. So I'm going to use my errands today to burn off some of this junk fuel. What the hell are you doing in here? Cleaning out all of his cleaning supplies?
Yeah, well, we just came from the dirt and mud, so. Yeah.
Well, you're going to need about everything in this store then, if that's what you're up to.
Between the excursion and Billy's truck, I think I spent over like $25 over there at the power.
Oh, you're getting off cheap.
Yeah.
You haven't even touched the motorhome or the stacker yet.
Well,
or the golf cart.
That's
or the other two cars.
That's them. No, I used the truck, and my dad always said, if you use something, bring it back in better condition than when you got it. So,
okay. So how was your trip to War in the Mud, or Drunk in the Woods, or what is that race you went to?
War battle in the gut, muddy, rainy, dusty. How did it go from absolute mud to dusty within like a few hours.
Dude, that's the way it is over there. It's either mud or a dust storm.
We got there Thursday, you know, that was set up. Friday it rained, Saturday it was muddy. He brought in a dozer, which I figured I was about to get you on the horn and just run everything because I bet you could do a better job than anybody did. But they were working hard. And I was like, I'm not unloading this car anywhere out here. So
Figured you had hemorrhoids by the end of Friday.
That car was under a bag in the trailer locked up until it was absolute time to unload it. And then I unloaded at the top of the hill on pavement, drove it down to the Red Horse pit.
No, you figured it out.
I figured it out and I unloaded it, and people were like, that's the cleanest car on the property. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I just brought it out of the trailer. For every hit I'd wipe it down.
So you ended up winning stick shift class, right?
Yeah. Billy won 26s and I won stick shift. Some harsh competition.
So now what? You're headed back to California?
Yeah, in like 2 hours, which means I have an hour and a half to clean the white car.
Well, I'll see you back at the house here in a few minutes.
Don't take too long. We need you back over there, you know? Shit.
You hear the shit that he tells me?
I did.
What are friends for, you know?
Exactly.
Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, now my list of shit.
Yeah, what do you want?
Mark helped me gather up everything I need for the shop and load it in the back of the Malibu so I could get on my way. I drove straight back to the shop to drop everything off and run Bob's Nova up on the lift so I can inspect the block to make sure I get the correct bolt pattern starter. I found some good news in that the block is drilled and tapped for either bolt pattern, which should make it a lot easier to get a starter today at the main store on 11th Avenue rather than having to run clear up to the warehouse in Delaware. Aside from a new mini starter, I also need to pick up that power steering fitting that was too small for the pressure side of the steering box. I opened up the starter to make sure that everything was in the box that we needed before I load up to start heading home. I've driven about 100 miles today running errands, and I've managed to burn off the vast majority of the winter blend fuel left in the tank. So on my way home, I stopped by the local Kroger station that typically sells the highest ethanol content pump E85 in the area. While I was topping off the Malibu, Tony and Tess were getting dropped off at the airport.
You're going home a winner again.
I win every time I go home with
Aww.
Tony and Tess are headed home to California while I'm headed home to check on the progress in the shop. And par for the course, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that Kenny has made excellent progress while I was gone. By the time I got back, he had the stock fuel pump bolted to the engine, the radiator and fan out of my car cleaned up and installed, as well as the new billet overflow tank. The bad news is that the plate for the remote mount reservoir for the power steering is missing. So I called CVF and had them overnight the fitting that we need. Although this is a major setback, there is some good news. I found a package just inside the shop door from Iski containing 2 brand new hydraulic roller cams that Bob has been waiting for. So I called him and told him I was on my way, and he let me in on a little secret. While Kenny and I have been slamming on his Nova, he's been putting that 415 off the dyno down in his Camaro. And if all goes well, he plans on taking the Camaro with him this weekend to the Bowtie Nationals as well. Bob told me by the time I make it to the shop, he probably will have it running in the car. Given the fact that we're struggling so hard with his Nova down at my shop, knowing that there's now a chance that Bob can run his Camaro instead takes a huge weight off my shoulders. Bob's been telling me how much he's looked forward to going to this event for at least 6 months. And honestly, I think he's looking forward to driving the Camaro just as much as he is the Nova. Hey, there he is. I brought you camshafts.
Oh, yeah?
I see you got the engine down in the car.
I do.
Did you fire it up in there yet?
Just did.
Did you really? Just now?
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear it. Let's fire this thing up. I'll bet it sounds better in the car than it does the dyno room.
It's so responsive.
There's so much noise in the dyno room, it's hard to really get a feel for what it sounds like. Did you just now get it fired up?
Yeah,
As I was on my way up here?
yeah.
Are you excited? That's a dumb question, isn't it?
Ready?
Yep. my God.
Uh-huh.
I'm in shock. Dude, that thing sounds awesome. That thing's got rhythm, Uncle Bob.
It does.
Oh my God. And it is responsive.
It is just instantly just.
I hope you're ready to hang on to this thing.
I know. I want to give her a big tight here over here.
Wow. I'll have to dig up the footage from the last time we had this thing out. I think it was at Trails.
Yeah, that wasn't a very good day. But you have those.
You'll have those. When it comes to race cars, you'll definitely have those every once in a while.
Yep.
I think we're getting ready to have a good weekend. At least this thing's just about ready to go.
How's the Nova?
I'm stressed. I'm stressed out.
Is that why you're up here tonight?
That's why I'm headed to get alcohol on the way home, and I'm not talking about for race cars. God, it's just one thing after another. I thought we were going to be able to use the original starter. We can. It's a 158 tooth or 153 tooth. Mm-hmm. So I had to run to Jegs today to get a mini starter, and then the fittings and the radiator, I forgot those. I don't know. My radiator out of my Nova fits your Nova, but your radiator does not. So I put my radiator in it for now. It's a brand new cold case radiator. We didn't have it in there very long. But if I move the battery to the trunk of your car, your radiator will fit. But I don't think you want to move the battery to the trunk, at least not right now.
No, not really.
Yeah. So both the headers are on. The engine's down in it. Kenny was working on mounting the overflow tank for the radiator when I left. And then we have to put a remote mount reservoir on the power steering pump, but they didn't send the remote mount kit with the fittings and the block off plate for the pump, so they're overnighting that. The cross member, I overnighted that from Summit, and I think Billy's going to help Kenny tomorrow put the 9-inch up underneath the back of it and put the cow tracks on. So
yeah, Billy's pretty experienced at that.
Yeah. So that's all good news. But I've been running wild all day today trying to pick up supplies and little fittings and just little knick-knack shit that's just driving me crazy. But it looks so nice. I can't wait for you to see it. It's turned out really good.
I'm excited. I'm pumped.
Oh, I am too. And I told Kenny I'm going to let him drive my Malibu this weekend. He's worked so hard on that car.
Yes, he's done such a fantastic job.
Look, he hasn't been home for 3 days. He has stayed the night for 3 nights in a row. He stayed all weekend, and he's been working on that car nonstop.
Maybe I ought to put him in the passenger seat of this. Right?
Well, he's going to drive my Malibu. I'm going to let him run it, and I'll let him make a pass or two in it and see how he does. But
yeah.
I let him drive it around last night. I took him to dinner. I let him drive around, just try to get comfortable with it. You know what I mean?
I do.
But, yeah, I'm pretty excited for the weekend. When I mentioned to Bob last night I was considering getting some alcohol on the way home, Bob politely reminded me for about the 100th time that there was some alcohol that he needed picked up as well. All right, everybody, welcome back. So it is Tuesday, and I went up to Bob's last night. We fired up his Camaro, and he reminded me for about the 100th time we are out of race fuel up at the shop. And Fuel Factory helps us out considerably with race gas and methanol. Let's go see these guys and check them out. Typically when I need race fuel, I go down to Basil Race Fuels in Logan and visit Kevin, who always takes good care of me and gets my fuel loaded up without damaging the trucks. Today I'm picking up a drum of M1 Fuel Factory methanol, a drum of Fuel Factory F12 race gas, and a 5-gallon pail of FNOS for the Malibu. Now that's the stuff I use in my standalone in the Malibu.
FNOS?
Yeah, that's the good stuff. So you been racing any?
No, I ain't had the car out this year. Got a 77 Baggett with a 434, runs 570s, 122 and 8 miles.
Yeah, where are you planning on taking it? You going down the south side or
I'm
something?
going to try to run down the south side.
Nice.
National Trail Raceway.
Nice. Well, good luck this year with it, okay?
Thanks,
I appreciate you, man.
Okay.
You always take good care of me when I come down here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin's got me loaded up. I'm going to head back to the shop. This is a beautiful area down in here. This is where we filmed the Shiners movie. And some of the places that we filmed at, I was thinking about maybe adding to the cruise route or one of the cruise routes. We're going to do a few of them, I think. But one of them I'd like to maybe go and revisit some of the filming locations down around here. Now, as I've mentioned, we're doing a giveaway this month for an opportunity for some of our subscribers to come out and spend a weekend with us and not only tour our shop, but also take a little tour of some of the places that you've seen in the videos here in Central Ohio. Now, we filmed the Shiners movie a few years ago during the pandemic. This is the first time I've been back to some of these filming locations ever since. While some of the locations look nearly identical, some of them, like the road that we filmed the chase scene on, are in terrible condition. Others have changed dramatically or no longer exist at all. But this scene in particular stands out, and thankfully still looks the same today as it did the day we filmed. There was a considerable amount of pre-planning to get the timing of this scene just right, and believe it or not, we filmed it in only one take. This time, Billy was flying the drone and I was driving the 55. But today, thanks to technology, I'm not only driving the pickup truck, but flying the drone at the same time. The drone that I used to film today can lock onto a target and follow it automatically, which would have made life a lot easier a few years ago when we filmed this short film. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys a few of the areas I'm thinking about adding to the cruise route that you'll get to see in conjunction with touring the shop, where Vicky, Addie, and Allison typically ship all the merch out themselves, which is exactly what they were doing while I was on my way back from Logan. This was technically the first load for the Mail Camino since we took over the shipping after finishing the giveaway for the Biscayne, which all that merch was shipped out of North Carolina. Anyway, Vicky and Addie had just finished their trip down to the post office by the time I had made it back to the shop. Kenny had laid out some more problems for me to resolve, while solutions to yesterday's problems had shown up in the mail. Thankfully, this new cross member that I ordered from Summit showed up right on time. This thing fits like a glove. Those line up just like it's supposed to be. Once we had the correct cross member in place, it was time to pull the stock 10-bolt rear end out of the Nova and prepare the car for the new strange 9-inch rear end and disc brakes. Not only will we need to redo the rear brake lines, we also need to get a measurement for a new custom-built drive shaft down at Super Duty. And we still need to get custom power steering lines made. Well, if they don't work, I'll always feel like they should have.
That's correct.
Well, everybody, good news, bad news. Kenny and I thrashed on this thing and thrashed and thrashed and thrashed, and we come up a little short, unfortunately. Last night we got it running and driving, got the brakes bled, exhaust all put on, you know, done. Well, almost done. And something's going on with the transmission. It has low line pressure. It's got a constant pressure valve body in it, but the line pressure is not what it needs to be, and it will not handle wide open throttle shifts. It flares on the shifts, and we just flat ran out of time. There's just no way. It was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning last night when we finally decided that gonna have to pull the plug. So it's sitting here. It's almost finished. We were just about ready to put the hood on. We've got to wire up the fan relay. That was really about the only thing left to do. The gauges are wired up and it sounds great. And it actually runs pretty decent, but there's just no way we can fix this transmission and make it up there. So Bob's been up there since yesterday. He's camped out up there and he's waiting on us. So we're just going to go ahead and load my Malibu up and take it to Norwalk and go see Bob. And hopefully Bob makes some good passes in his Camaro, because we're not going to be making any in this thing today. Kenny and I worked really hard all week to try and get all the parts rounded up, get the car put together, and document everything as we went. And to add insult to injury, on our way to Norwalk, it started raining. So after all our trials and tribulations this week, we weren't sure if we were going to get to make any passes at all. But thankfully, things were staying dry up at Summit Motorsports Park. And while we were traveling through the rain to get there, Bob was pulling into the burnout box to make his first pass on his new 700 horsepower small block Chevy, thanks to Eric Weingartner and the cylinder heads and intake that he sent Bob. Although the Camaro wheelied and got up on the bumper, Bob pedaled it and still managed to go a new personal best. Bob brought the car back to the pits and immediately started making some adjustments to the car to hopefully go up and make a pass without having to pedal it. He was finishing up making those adjustments when Vicky and I pulled in. He stopped what he was doing to help me get my Malibu unloaded so that Kenny can hopefully join in the fun once he makes it to the track. Once we had our pit set up, Bob and I headed straight back for the starting line with hopes of resetting a new personal best for Bob's Camaro. The adjustments Bob made worked perfect. A 004 reaction time with a new personal best of 950 at 140 miles an hour.
Really, kid.
What are you doing?
I wanted to check the air altitude up there.
He told me when the front end of it came down, he jerked the steering wheel and pulled your muscle in your arm.
Oh no, don't hurt your arm.
I don't know what
The
I did.
other
I know I
arm.
got to the finish line. I was like, oh my God, there's a muscle hurting. Yeah, but it went away.
You having fun?
Yeah.
Good.
I made one pass and I went and got something to eat and relax because there's not very many cars here.
I think the weather's killing it, you know.
Hopefully tomorrow, you know, because they can still come in the morning and get a pass. It's a good show. Everybody should come out. So,
Well, I'm just glad that that thing's running good. My throttle cable's stretched so far now, it won't even open the throttle. I tried so hard to get your car up here, man. It
I
just,
know you did. Well, you texted me at 2:30 last night, left a message. Oh, well, the transmission ain't right or whatever. And I was like, you know, you should have gave up before then and got some rest and enjoy the weekend.
well, I'm here now.
All right.